I think they're critical. Many of my clients, I spend a lot of time with them on reminding them in this post-COVID era just how valuable that human interaction is. So
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in any opportunity to visit a prospect, a client, do it. You take the
Yeah.
opportunity, get to trade shows. They're coming
Yeah.
back to your client, do a demo on site rather than online. Or you can build relationships. We're still human, so
Yeah.
while the tools have, highly effective in terms of efficiency, there really is nothing that can really take the place of the actual physical relationship being built.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. Your host here, Alessandro Cutri. Joining us today is Rich Makover, the managing partner over at TechCXO. Today's going to be an interesting episode. We're going to be diving into a little bit about his story, his background, what they're specializing at TechCXO, and some much more engaging insights into marketing and growth overall. So without further ado, I'll kind of just pass it on over to you, Rich, if you don't mind just introducing yourself and telling the audience a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Nice to meet you, Alessandro. Spent some
Pleasure.
time with you. Yeah, my background is, what a lot of people that have been through 30, 40 years of work, it's been varied. Started out believe it or not, as an accountant, KPMG way back in the day. Worked
Wow.
myself through a couple of different roles, lived overseas for a while, and ended up becoming a commercial leader at Avon Products, in which I really cut my teeth on a lot of the different elements of revenue management, growth
Mhm.
management, and leadership.
Nice, nice. And so how is that like transition, obviously from being the accountant and obviously going into, that revenue growth role? How was that? Did that experience as an accountant help you a lot in terms of that transition, or what was that like?
Yeah, believe it or not, it's helped me quite a bit. I
Mhm.
didn't know it at the time, but really having a good sense of the overall business, how does revenue and sales fit into that in the entire business rather than just being purely focused on the front end, but also, really frankly, good math skills helps you when you're a sales leader.
Yeah.
Know targets, know how to manage the targets, and it's been very helpful for my entire career.
Yeah, yeah. So why don't we get into a little bit about, Tech CXO and what you guys are doing? If you don't mind just giving a quick like overview to the
Sure.
audience in terms of, your value proposition and really where you guys specialize.
Sure. Yeah, TechCXO is a fractional C-suite executive on demand partnership. We've been around for over 20 years. We've got a lot of strength in all functional areas. So we have CFOs. So we have a fractional CFO group, fractional technology group, CTO, operations, which includes supply chain, executive, HR, and then the revenue growth practice, which is what I lead, which is made up of fractional chief sales officers, chief marketing officers, and chief revenue officers. So that's what we do. We tend to focus in on what I would say a lot of founder-based business, venture
Yeah.
capital, and private equity. And we really help those businesses when they get to a certain point, at least in my area particularly, we really help them grow beyond maybe where the founder was able to take them. And we really lean into all of our partners, about 125 partners in total, 25 in
Wow.
our group. All of us C-suite prior to coming to TechCXO, we
Wow.
lean into our very practical operator experience.
Very, very interesting. And so, obviously you have your hands on when it comes to growing a lot of these companies. And, what are some of the trends that you're noticing even in like the marketing and the sales spaces right now? Just from having worked on with working with these companies.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of the founder-based businesses, kind of irrespective of the category, you know, um, traditionally get to a certain point, like I said before, where, the founder has been, incredibly successful usually in growing this business from a standstill to this growth position. But how do you get further? How do you get to the next level? How do you build some structure that makes it a repeatable sales process? That's where I see, uh, founders it's hard. If you don't know how to do that, it's hard. And
Yeah.
that's where we come in and build out a repeatable process at the
Yeah.
marketing side, at the sales side, and the overall rev ops business. And then I would say the same for our other functional areas that are outside of my group. We're building repeatable process. We don't expect to be there forever. We many times are there for multiple years, but at some point the business is going to keep on growing, and the business will be able to support full-time executive in the position.
Yeah. Yeah. And what have you found? I mean, you mentioned a couple of things there on it itself, but what have you found what's your philosophy? Like when you go inside of a company and you're like, you know what? I got to optimize it for revenue. Like here are the first couple of things that I'm doing. Like what are your some actionable things that you typically take to start to drive the revenue needle forward?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a great question, hard to answer. So let me
Yeah.
kind of start out with the roadmap. We don't presuppose that we know the answers prior to getting in there. I think we view it as we're not consultants, right? We're operators. We're going to
Yeah.
get in there. We're going to do an assessment of what's going on. We're going to come back and build out a roadmap with the founder or the executive team.
Yeah.
That roadmap could be channel strategies. So, how do you get into other channels? It could be a partner strategy. It could be a digital marketing lead generation strategy. So it really depends on what the needs are of the company. The beauty of what we have done in terms of our firm and our partners is that we're very experienced in multiple disciplines and also multiple experiences and categories. So very odd that you're going to get something we don't know or haven't experienced, one of us, and
Yeah.
help really navigate through those potholes that we probably stepped in 20 years ago, and now we try to avoid them on behalf of our clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, it pays to have that experience, right? It pays to be able to have gone through the bruises and the bumps
Well,
along the way, so you can tell that your
yeah.
clients not to make the same mistakes, right?
Like I say, I've earned these gray hairs. These things have come, right? So I've earned them. So might as well pass it on.
Yeah, yeah. We always talk about, when it comes to like, I'm curious to get your take on this, right? Because we always are talking about, how in the sales and marketing world, right? As we kind of see AI and we see this, movement towards more artificial intelligence, that the element of human interaction is so much more valuable nowadays, right? To establish those, those relationships and build those, key partnerships. What have you like? I'm curious to get your take. Like, how do you see, building relationships and, building those key partnerships? Like, how important would you say that is for businesses to continue to capitalize on?
I think they're critical.
Mhm.
Many of my clients, I spend a lot of time with them on reminding them in this post-COVID era just how valuable that human interaction is. So
Yeah,
I'm a big believer in any opportunity to visit a prospect, a client, um,
yeah,
do it. You take the
yeah,
opportunity. Get to trade shows. They're coming
yeah,
back. Get to your client. Do a demo on site rather than online. The
yeah,
more you can build relationships, it really, we're still human, so
yeah,
while the tools have, I mean, highly effective in terms of efficiency, there really is nothing that can really take the place of the actual physical relationship being built. The other part is the reality is trust is hard, hard,
yeah,
hard, hard. And, how do you build trust without going back over and over again over a period of time? The worst thing we can do is ask for trust. You got to earn it. And
yeah,
the way you earn it is by showing up. And so I
yeah,
believe it's a big part of the revenue process, or the relationships that are required, because
yeah.
of the bumpy times.
Totally agree, man. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to talk with a lot of founders and founder-led sales, founder-led businesses. And I was just having a conversation with someone the other day around how important it is to continue to build relationships, right? Because I think sometimes people have these false misconceptions when it comes to sales and marketing, that hey, I should be able to, go out to the market and find, the hottest lead. And like, there's got to be a way for me to be able to just, convert that lead in it, a week sales process or a one call close, whatever it may be. But people are often looking for like these silver bullets when it comes to, sales and marketing, right? And I'm sure, as you know, there is, like you said, there is no silver bullet. You want to ask you the question, what are the three things that you do? Or you're like, well, it depends, right? On kind of where we're at, right?
Mhm.
Because there's not just one thing that you can do that just automatically turns the pipeline on within the business, right? There's different things that you have to do. And one of the things that we always tell folks is it's about how do you continue to build relationships? How do you continue to build relationship with prospects? What are you doing to building the pipeline? Because what you do today, right, is going to pay off in next month, in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So it's how are you continuing, that building that pipeline in that sense?
Yeah, and also I don't think it's an or question. I think you need to use tools.
Yeah.
My firm, we use a lot of tools. We've got some great proprietary AI tools
Yeah.
that we string together for our BD teams, our BDRs, our SDRs, and our whole Rev Ops, our marketing teams. They're tremendous.
Yeah.
But it's not an or conversation. We
Yeah.
need those. You need
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you need to build real life relationships in order to really. How do you differentiate yourself? It
Exactly.
just is not easy to differentiate yourself only using technology. Technology is a necessary tool. I use it every day, all day. There is not a day that I don't use AI. There's not a day that my clients don't use AI. Uh, that being said, I spent today with three of my clients talking about what does your trip schedule look like for the second quarter, because
Yeah.
you got to get out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it really is an and, not an or.
Exactly. And I don't think I could have said it better myself, right? It's about how do you blend the two together, right? In that itself and have that methodology that uses both the technology and the AI, but also establishes the trust and the human connection. Because that's one of the things I don't think AI will ever be able to replace. Like when it comes to
No,
like even like a sales agent, like a salesperson, right? You're not going to be able to put an AI agent that's going to be able to close a deal the
you
same way a human would.
look, I never say never, but I will tell you this. We are at TechCXO, we believe in the, trusted advisor value, right? And
Yeah.
as a trusted advisor, it's hard to get that trust
Hmm.
without building the relationship. And for me and my partners, where we're embedded in the executive team, we have teams reporting to us. We have teams that we're leading. And
Yeah.
I can assure you that we're leading our teams to kind of continue that effort about relationship building.
Yeah. We get a lot of like different revenue leaders that tune in, CEOs, founders, what would you say are like, I know this is a loaded question, but what would you say are some of the like the lessons that you've learned throughout your career, right? That's maybe like you went through some of those bumps and bruises that, you'd be willing to share with the audience in terms of, hey,
Sure.
like these are some of the things that you should maybe avoid to do, or here's some advice for you.
Sure. Well, one is, hire well.
Yeah.
Hire well and make your decisions on people in an honest and direct manner, but you're only going to be as good as your team. And so hiring well and building that culture is continues to be critical, whether or not you're working in a $10 billion Fortune 200 company or you're working in a 10-person newly funded, newly seeded business. So the people and who you bring onto your team and who you include in that team are critical. The second piece I would say would be, on the sales side, the revenue side, is, have a blended approach. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to build your long-term pipeline and at the same time, look for those, quick win opportunities to build some momentum. I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of companies waiting on perfection, and I always view perfection as the enemy of progress. So,
Yep.
move, get action, get it
Yes.
moving. It is not going to be perfect. That's fine. But get action rather than waiting for it to be perfect before you move forward. And to me, those are two, again, whether or not I'm working with a founder or working with a huge publicly traded company, those are truisms, period.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the size of the business.
Totally, totally agree, right? I think that's one of the most important things that, sometimes we get into these habits as, people to kind of have this like analysis paralysis or like, you want to make sure that everything's perfect until, you start doing something. And, the reality of the matter is it's never going to be perfect, right? Like it's never going to be the perfect time. It's like, there's never a perfect time to have a baby, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's always something that's there. There's always something that's coming up. However, to your point, if you take the action, you start implementing, you start you testing, you start figuring out what's working, what's not. You start to make progress just from taking action, right? Because if you don't
Definitely.
take the action, you're never going to have the data necessary to be able to say, okay, well, what moves should I make? What different steps should I take, right?
That's
And
right.
so many people get caught in this mindset where it's like, oh, I want to wait until I turn on marketing, or I want to wait until I start doing this. It's like, no, you should never wait. It's not something that you wait, to do, right? This is something
Yeah,
that you should always
yeah,
be doing because, as you know, like cash is king, right? Revenue,
yeah,
like in the business, like as soon as you lose cash, you no longer play the game, right?
yeah.
Business is a game of, you need revenue to continue going, to continue playing the game.
I've been fortunate to work with a lot of really great founders, and they really mostly do get this. It's not, I'm not suggesting that most don't understand the kind of the value of doing both. Um, for me, where it becomes problematic is where one side gets too far over their skis versus the other. So,
Mm,
and again, being thoughtful. So having a plan, but being open to also it's what I always like to call it, wide avenues and high walls. Give it
mm.
a lot of space, but there's a limit. And
Yeah, 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 yeah,
those high walls don't let you really tip over and out of the road, but
yeah,
you got some maneuverability
yeah,
as you're
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of going down the street.
Yeah. And I like that. I'm gonna write it down. Wide avenues and high walls, right? Because it's true though, right? You gotta always be able to like pivot and not like like completely 180s, but like what 10% move can you make here? How can
Right.
you improve this? How can you improve that? And it's a game of doing that almost consistently, right? Because if you're not iterating until you find the metrics that you want, right? Even from the sales process, like, okay, am I having the right show rate? Am I having the right close rate? How long is the sales cycle, right? Like, and you tracking those different metrics once you've established them, right, that's when you can kind of be like, okay, like things are looking good, but it takes a while to figure out that,
For
as you know,
sure.
right,
For
to
sure.
dial in your metrics and to figure that stuff out, it takes a lot of tweaking, right?
For
Uh,
sure. And particularly, if you're in a small business with a relatively long, cycle time for your sale, you could be waiting a long time to know for sure.
yeah,
And during that time, if you're not testing different approaches out because you're waiting for all the data to be perfect, the world's passing you by.
yeah.
So you need that balance, I believe, to be effective.
Yeah, what's your vision? Rich. Obviously, you're like, you're still building. You're still super hands on. You got a lot of. It seems like you're consistently doing something. Like, what's the vision look like for you and TechCXO in the next 12 months? Like, what are you guys trying to build over there?
Yeah, I think we have huge opportunities. I think that we tend to provide a very, very cost-effective and action-oriented solution
Yeah,
for founder, VC, P. We come in there and get moving at a fraction of the cost that
yeah,
it would cost you to bring on let's say a full-time CRO, for example.
yeah,
So I think there's great appetite for what we do.
yeah,
I think what I'm seeing right now is, our lead funnel is in great shape.
yeah,
We've got a lot of really, really high quality fractional executives on the team. And
yeah,
I believe that we're really poised. When you look at private equity and you look what's happening in the environment of the macro environment of financing and lending and startups, I think we're in good shape, particularly in the areas where we really are strong, technology, healthcare as examples of that, agency, B2B. I think I'm very excited about the future.
yeah.
Got a lot of new people that are joining the firm, and we're growing. So it's a good place to be.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited to see what you guys continue to do. I definitely think you have something special. And it's been fun getting the chance to pick your brain a little bit, Rich, and see what insights you're seeing over there, man. Any closing notes from you, man? I always like to ask, like, when I think one of a funny question I always like to ask towards the end here is like, if you had to travel back, right, to say 20, 30 years ago at the beginning of your career,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I run a mentoring program with young guys at Penn State that play lacrosse. So that question is a great question. I always tell folks, and I would for myself, I remind myself, skills, grab skills. You don't know. I started as an accountant. I would have
Yeah,
no concept that this is what I would be doing in my career. What I do know is that every step along the way, I really focus on what skills could I gather.
yeah,
Was that was it financial skills? Was it emotional intelligence skills? Was it, moving to another country and learning cultural skills? Every
yeah,
I worked in private equity portfolio companies, so I learned that dynamic. I think that as a young person, don't be focused on you're in one place forever and one track. It's really all about being open to gaining skills and continually being a curious and a learning forward person.
I love it. Skills pay the bills, my friend. That's what they say.
Ah,
That
good
is what
one.
they
I'm going
say.
to take that one from you. I like it.
Yeah. Hey, man, Rich, it's been a pleasure, man. If people are listening to this, they want to reach out to you. They're like, hey, how can we work with TechCXO? How can we get in contact with you? What are some
Yeah.
of the best ways to go and find you, man?
Well, certainly go to our website, www.techcxo.com. Come to me on my directly to me on my email, rich.makover, Makover at techcxo.com. Easy to reach me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active
Mm.
on LinkedIn as well. So lots of ways to find me, lots of ways to find us, even if you don't need a revenue help, but curious about other fractional support. That's my job. My job as a managing partner is to help people learn more about the firm, not just about the practice. So I'm happy to help out.
Perfect, man. We'll include all of those links in the description for people to go check out. If you guys did make it all the way to the end, make sure to go check out Rick and the team. And don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for more content. We hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And thanks again, Rich. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.